If you haven't heard of the gig economy yet, you might well have used it or know others who are part of it.
Ride-sharing companies and others like them have caused a boom in the freelance job market.
It's estimated 100,000 people in New South Wales alone are working in the so-called gig economy.
So when I was growing up, people worked for big companies. Now there's some people who work for several companies in the same day.
Some say it offers flexibility for workers, but others call it exploitation with little protection.
Governments are losing out on tax revenues.
I think the other part is that there's a lot of economic anxiety around retirement, around the future.
These firms develop so rapidly, law and policy fail to keep up.
The law needs to change to reflect modern working practices.
What do we want? Fair wages!
The surge in the scale of the gig economy has left economists and statisticians rushing to categorise it, keep track of the companies involved and count the people making a living from it.
We have a great super system, but it was designed for the Australian society of the 1990s. And that was a workforce that, compared to today, was much more male, much more full-time, much more informal employment. And what couldn't be foreseen back then, I think even if you're Paul Keating, is how the world would change. So you couldn't see that the workforce would move to the extent that it has to become more female, more part-time and casual, more involved in contracting, and you certainly couldn't foresee the digital technology revolution.
It won't be very long before we'll see, a fifth of the whole of the workforce outside of the super system unaddressed.
Some of the studies that I've seen would indicate that trend line towards high levels of casualisation, this move towards the gig economy, self-employed, independent contractors. In the US, it's forecast that up to 40% of the working population by 2020 will be in some form of independent contracting role. Now, if that trend certainly continues here in Australia, we're probably looking at somewhere in the vicinity of about 5 to 6 million working Australians being in some form of independent contracting roles.
I think the changing workforce is a huge challenge to our whole concept of having universal superannuation and improving retirement outcomes for all people, men and women. We won't have universal super if we don't find ways to cover those who are in the gig economy and the self-employed.
This is a large problem that needs tackling in lots of different ways, and I think that there isn't a silver bullet that's going to solve this. I think there needs to be a better understanding about what the problem is and what the trends are. But I think ultimately there will need to be a policy response, as well as the industry doing a better job at educating the membership and the workforce about the importance of saving for retirement.